Wait, who are these guys? If you've been around for a while, you will know that I love fossil Pokemon. And as we're continuing the rest of July enjoying Fossil Frontier, where we all come together and talk about fossil Pokemon, it makes me wonder which every group might be the most forgotten or the least memorable. Then while there definitely might be a single one later on, in all honesty I think the pair of Anorith and Lileep are extremely underrated. The two brand new fossil Pokemon that were introduced in Generation 3, I don't really see all that much posted about them. Then obviously whenever it comes time to talk about fossil Pokemon in general, they're always there. The very first fossil Pokemon in Generation 1, Kabuto, Ammonite, and Aerodactyl, are going to be remembered because they are the first and have been seen in the multiple remakes, and on top of that are the only group to have a member that got a Mega Evolution. But then also when you look at the Pokemon that followed Cradily and Lileep, being Cranidos and Shieldon in Generation 4, those were two fossil Pokemon that were finally actually dinosaurs. Something that people have really been wanting to see ever since the introduction of fossil Pokemon. I mean, a good amount of the interest in fossil Pokemon comes from the inspiration of Jurassic Park, which prominently features dinosaurs rather than whatever these guys are supposed to be. And then by the time we got to Generation 6, we got two of the favorite fossil Pokemon that are some of the coolest, and I honestly really do like them. But in the years since, with how relevant the other fossil Pokemon have become, it sort of feels like Anorith and Lileep have been left in the dust. Alright, so anyway, let's get back to that question, what are they even supposed to be? Well, Anorith is obviously based on the ancient arthropod, the Anomalocaris, of which it derives its name from, which on the surface appears to be just a very old shrimp, though I guess that's why Anorith is called the old shrimp Pokemon. But actually, the Anomalocaris is just about the oldest animal that any fossil Pokemon is based on, an extremely efficient animal in the ancient oceans. And thankfully it actually has a bit of relevance because in the modern internet there are a handful of Anomalocaris memes that I always think are funny and are really cool to see, and anytime I see one I can't help but think about Anorith because look, these things are just exactly the same. And I know that there are sitting cutie plushes of just about every Pokemon, but I really need them to make a big Anorith just like the Anomalocaris plushes. When it evolves into Armaldo, it generally is still an Anomalocaris, however, it's actually potentially taken some inspiration from dinosaurs, as it sprouts these really strong legs, has a long tail, and has a mouth that's a little more lizard-like, so maybe this is a Pokemon that we should consider to be a dinosaur, or some other ancient reptile. Then based on the Pokédex entries, that is sorta meant to be the inspiration, because the whole theme around this evolution line is meant to be life migrating from the ocean onto land, which is honestly a really cool idea and a big reason that Armaldo was actually one of my favorite fossil Pokemon for a while. Definitely back during Generation 3, I just really love the blue coloring. Also other fun personal story, this is one of the Pokemon that I have in my modern games that I did transfer up from the old ones, which was actually traded to me from a friend for some reason, but I think it's really cool that it still has her trainer ID as the original trainer. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the video, and if you want to continue showing your support, there are actually some brand new designs over on the merch store. These are some that I made for Fossil Frontier. Obviously there's the main logo on a shirt and a hoodie, or you can check out the Cretaceous Garden design that's also on a shirt and hoodie. If you think these are cool and you want to help me out, you can head on over to gatorex-shop.fourthwall.com, and if you're a channel member, I will be dropping a promo code over on the Discord server or the community tab that will give you 10% off your entire order, and it works on the old designs as well if you want to pick those up. Anyway, the promo's over, let's go and get back to the video. Now moving on to Lileep, even though this is a grass type Pokemon, it is not based on a prehistoric flower. Instead, it is based on a Crinoid, a type of echinoderm that is even still alive today, but obviously they've been around for a while and there are prehistoric species of them, so in a way it almost makes Lileep very similar to Kabuto. But anyway, yeah, these are very interesting creatures. Because they are echinoderms, they're very similar to sea stars and sea urchins, which while they are able to move, you'll mostly see them sitting on rocks or ocean floors, and that also ties into the Pokédex entries we see for these Pokemon that says they are very stationary and are very hard to move. I always thought Lileep was really cool having these sort of false eyes on the main part of the body, with the actual eyes being the little ones we see at the very top, and that is an element that carries over into Cradily. And now that we made it to the final Pokemon, I just really gotta say I love all the colors that we see in this evolution line and the other one, which at this point you really wouldn't expect to see for fossil Pokemon. And if you've ever seen their shiny variants, oh my gosh, these are some absolutely gorgeous shinies. Cradily and Lileep I am also a fan of, another weird little personal story, but I did used to have the Delta species cards of both of these that made them dark and steel type, and that was just really cool looking, and I used to use them in my weird little playground Pokemon deck. However, it is extremely interesting that both of these Pokemon are said to be from the prehistoric oceans, but in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, we actually find their fossils in the middle of the desert, and that is really nothing new, especially with how the Kanto fossils were seen in Mount Moon, but if anything, it's almost a bit of a better fit for these Pokemon in the Hoenn region, which we know is susceptible to a bunch of different types of weather, and maybe the reason that their fossils are in a desert now are the direct result of the previous battle between Groudon and Kyogre, and that would be a really fun connection. You know, I realized that one of the things I didn't mention about these Pokemon is that in Emerald version you are able to obtain both of them, and while that is a really great detail I will remember every time I replay it, that might have been something I mentioned back in the Mirage Tower video. So yeah, these Pokemon have some really cool designs and inspirations, but if anything, maybe they weren't too exciting to people at first because the origins were not very well known to the general public, and while they did have appearances in things like merchandise and the anime, it wasn't until the 102nd episode of the Advanced series, Where's Armaldo, that we would see these Pokemon. So the group is off to Wales Island for some training, and while everybody else is on the beach practicing their moves, Max is in the forest and runs into a Cradily, which should not be possible because they're extinct, and so the rest of the group doesn't believe him. When he heads off on his own to try and find the answers, he stumbles upon a facility where a bunch of other fossil Pokemon are being cared for, and this is where we meet the characters of the day, Professor Proctor, as well as his wife Annie Proctor. They're caring for all of the prehistoric Hoenn Pokemon, Anorith, Lileep and Cradily, and they're working on bringing them back and caring for them, apparently with the hope of turning the island into a theme park. I knew it was all a Jurassic Park reference all along. Anyway, one of the Anorith ends up evolving into Armaldo and breaks out, and so the episode becomes a dash trying to retrieve it as well as fending off Team Rocket, and then eventually leading Armaldo to the ancient berries that still grow on the island that are its natural diet. This is actually a really fun standalone episode, and I think it does a good job showing off all of the Pokemon, and like I said, it is another Jurassic Park reference, so that's a fun idea. But aside from this episode, the Hoenn fossils really didn't get too many appearances, probably most known for being featured in the ancient caves that we see in the Lucario and the Mr. and Mew movie. So I don't really want to call these Pokemon totally forgotten, that might have been just for a thumbnail or title, but for sure I think these might be some of the least utilized fossil Pokemon in the franchise. Sure, as of late we've seen Cradily appear in new Pokemon Snap and now the trading card game, but Anorith and Armaldo are still kinda lagging behind. With so many Pokemon, it's only a matter of time until you see them again, so with Pokemon Winds and Waves being very focused on the ocean, I hope that maybe we'll get to see them there, but until then I think these two might be some of my personal favorite fossil Pokemon, and definitely some of my top underrated Pokemon that I really think everybody should take a look at some point. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below about Anorith, Armaldo, Lileep, and Cradily, and tell me if you have any fun memories. So anyway, yeah, I should really be heading off, I'm losing my voice making this video, but if you enjoyed watching, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and hype up the video as well, and I hope you're ready for even more prehistoric Pokemon videos this year, as the Fossil Frontier event continues on. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, including the Great Gators, Cemetery Hill, Cosmo Zero, Shiny Swints, Starshooter, Koi Koi 13, Cheez-It 62, Gator Kid 509, TF, Mathaclock 947, Taijirai, and Quago. If you would like to support, see your name here, get access to emotes for comments, live streams, sometimes early videos, and our members only Discord server, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky as well for more memes. Anyway, this is Gatorex, and I will catch you all later.
You'd think that staying off an island full of dinosaurs wouldn't be that hard.
What was that?
You know they're there, and you leave them be. But sometimes, you just want that chilling back-of-your-neck terror feeling that only a dinosaur can really give you. Well, here it is. Get ready for the Cartoon Network premiere of Jurassic Park 3, tomorrow at 8 p.m. Objects are even scarier than they appear on Cartoon Network.